MD Prepper here, discussing the first video in my apartment prepping and low-cost prepping series. First topic is going to be maintaining your shelter. So why would I start there? Well, most survival experts recommend shelter is the first thing you seek in an emergency situation, because exposure to the elements can take you out faster than anything else. In this situation, we're starting with an apartment. This is where we're going to be doing our prepping and bugging in and waiting out the storm or what have you. The most important thing you need to start with, other than just having your shelter, is being able to safely maintain it so that you have that shelter and all your preps on the inside. So in a power outage, water's out, those type of scenarios, people are going to be trying to keep warm, trying to cook food, boil water in lots of interesting and sometimes experimental and dangerous ways. A lot of candles, sterno stoves. Some idiots may be using a stove or a fireplace in their house to cook on, or bring a grill on the inside of the house and start to cook with it. So you may be perfectly safe in dealing with your apartment and your fire sources and heat sources. You can't necessarily count on the guy downstairs or next door. So the number one threat to your shelter in an emergency situation, power outage, etc., is going to be fire. Fire is going to be something that's major, especially in a disaster where firefighters and other emergency personnel are going to be responding to possibly bigger issues. You may be on your own. So one of the very first things I would recommend having in an apartment, and this is what my mother sent me with to college, or one of them, was fire extinguisher. You got to have a fire extinguisher. I would really recommend having at least two. The recommendation I had when I went off to live on my own was to always have one fire extinguisher in each bedroom and one openly visible in the kitchen. So we were talking about a one-bedroom apartment scenario, so one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen. Add one of these for every other bedroom you've got. You may wake up in the middle of the night, there's fire. You may need to do something about it and get out of the building. If you're in the kitchen, you know, under the best of times, you may have a grease fire, something like that. Always have one of these out in the open. Don't put them in cabinets or drawers or put away behind a bunch of other junk. I keep this openly on the floor by my bed, and I keep another one openly exposed on the counter in the kitchen for easy access. Prices vary. These are about a 2.5 pound version. Prices vary from about $12 or $13 on Walmart to roughly $20 on average. What you're going to want are the ABC ones, so the full kind of spectrum, if you will, of fire extinguishers. A categories deal with wood and paper trash fires. B deals with oils and gases and liquids and things like that. C is electrical fires. So you don't know what type of fire you may be waking up to or having to deal with, so get an ABC. Don't just get the BC or what have you. Replace them if the charge gets low, and practice with them if necessary. Charge starts to get a little low and you're about to replace one, take it out in a field somewhere and get used to messing around with it. So worth having fire extinguishers. You could get the bigger 5 pound versions. They're a lot more expensive, $35, $40 a piece. It's whatever you need, whatever you want, whatever you prefer. These small ones are not a bad idea. I also keep one in the car just in case, just to have around because you never know. Cheap enough, they last a long time. I've got one I've had 6 or 7 years and the pressure's still high on it, doesn't need to be replaced, so I've got it. I do have newer ones, but fire extinguisher, guys, definitely something to have in an apartment prep or a home, anywhere else you're going to be. Keep a fire extinguisher or two around, because you may be able to save your gear and save your property real quick, or at the very least be able to get yourself out of the building with one of these. So that's number one. The rest of maintaining your shelter, you got to maintain the integrity of the shelter as best you can. So if there's a tornado or thunderstorms or hailstorms or ice storms and whatnot, you may have trees going down, you may have debris flying around, and so the most likely next scenario or damage to your shelter is a broken window or a broken sliding glass door, something like that, a breach in the insulation of the place. You're going to need to cover that up for a lot of reasons. You don't want water or snow coming in, and of course temperature regulation. A lot of ways to deal with that. If it's a small hole, first thing I'm probably going to do is shove a towel in there, and just to keep water and rain and snow and whatnot out, and then worry about covering it up with plastic, etc. FEMA and a lot of emergency organizations recommend keeping plastic tarps or sheets around. Well, who just keeps plastic sheets around? Probably not a lot of people. Best thing to use, I'd say, dual purpose trash bags. You're going to be using trash bags regardless, probably these standard little 13-gallon size ones, which are a little small, a little thin, but you can always layer them up, use multiple ones. I would not necessarily recommend getting scented ones. We've got folks who have sensitivity to the odors and all that. But if you got to use this as a rain catch, something like that on the porch or fire escape, something like that, you don't want those chemicals, those scents in there to contaminate your water. So I just buy standard 13-gallon ones. Again, fairly thin, but can be cut up with your knife, scissors, something like that, made more appropriately to tie down and secure. Now, of course, you're going to need to secure these down to broken windows or holes, things like that. Duct tape holds the world together. I would recommend at least 2 full-size standard silver rolls of duct tape. One of them you're going to use. You're going to constantly be using duct tape. I do use duct tape all the time. I want an unopened one, which I don't have here, of course, available as a backup. As soon as I tear into that backup one, I'm going to add to my list another one to buy it. So 1 is none, 2 is 1. 2 rolls of duct tape at least. I'm a strong believer in having a third. That third roll of duct tape needs to be something very brightly colored. I prefer this blaze orange. I've got multiple colors of bright duct tape around. I use it to mark my ammo boxes by caliber. That's another story. But the bright orange can be used for signaling. Okay, if I've got a trash bag or just anything over the sliding glass door to my balcony, something like that, and I'm injured or I'm sick or I just need some help, something like that, I want emergency personnel to know I'm there, I can take this stuff out and tape up SOS in letters and blaze orange or something like that, or help or what have you. I'd probably go SOS. It's going to be the easiest to do. So blaze orange, not natural color, put it out in the parking lot on the ground if you're looking for floods or something and the water's receded and you're looking for a helicopter to find you, something like that. Have something bright. So these are kind of expensive compared to the larger silver rolls. Silver rolls run you $4 to $5. It's $4 to $5 for these smaller, brightly colored ones, but have one of these around. I think it's worth it for insurance. Even if you, for some reason, don't need the brightly colored and you just happen to run through all your standard color duct tape, you got this as a backup. Now, of course, when you're taping up your windows or a hole, a broken window hole, something like that, glass, you're obviously going to want to tape the full edges of your trash bags down. But there's other scenarios where you may want to hang things. We'll get there. If I've got a hole in a window and this is my bedroom window and that's where I'm trying to camp out and keep warm during a winter storm, I don't want to lose all that heat. One of the easiest, most efficient ways to reflect the internal heat back in after you've got that hole covered up fairly well are going to be Mylar blankets. Okay, this is a 10-pack I got online for a little over $7. I think it worked out to 72 cents each. Don't just have one Mylar blanket. These things are cheap. They're so-so as far as durability, but they're incredibly versatile. So go ahead and get a decent pack of them to lay around. 72 cents a piece, so call it $8. You'll be fine with all these. You can put them in multiple places. Keep one in your car, keep one in your bug-out bag, camping kit, etc. One thing I'd recommend with these, you've got a window that's busted in a storm or glass, something like that. Take one of these out, and after you put your trash bags up to maintain your watertight capacity as much as you can, hang one of these on the inside to reflect the internal heat from your candles or whatever type of heat source, fireplace, so you keep the heat in. No reason to waste it. I would not necessarily tape these things down strongly because they're going to be hard to move. Say, why would you want to move them? Well, if I've got a partial hole in the glass, or even I've got an intact window and I just don't want to lose heat at night, I can put this over the hole. But if morning comes around and there's plenty of sun coming through that window, I want to open the blinds. I want to take this off and let the sun come in and heat up that space before nightfall. So what I would recommend with these is if you're going to attach them with a nail or a thumbtack, something like that, screw, I'd say thumbtacks are a good idea, as are nails, is to tape these. Take a small piece of duct tape in the corners or wherever you're going to attach these to the wall, and put it on one side, preferably both, so it's going to be tear resistant. You can even use those little eye hooks, things like that, into the walls that you hook it over so it's not going to fall off, so you can easily remove it during the daytime and put it back up at night, or move it around as necessary as the sun moves across the sky if you've got multiple windows at different angles, stuff like that. So being able to take this up and down as you need to is probably going to be a good idea. Plus you don't black out your entire internal apartment space by covering all your light sources during the daytime necessarily. Let the sunlight in if it's prudent to do so. So big fan of these Mylar blankets. A lot of purposes and uses. Of course, you can wrap up with them in the bed or wherever you're trying to keep warm, in the bathroom, anything like that. Using to reflect any kind of heat source back into an area. You can even hang them in hallways, things like that, to cut off and make dead air spaces. So if I'm living in my living room and I've got a long hallway, I may tack one of these up across that hallway, at least the upper half of it, because heat rises, to keep things from extra heat from going down that hallway. So tons of things you can do with these. Now, one thing I'd say, what if things are ultimately compromised? You know, a tree comes through the roof or something. There's no way to patch it particularly well. There's no way to bug out. You need kind of an emergency shelter of some sort. Now, of course, you could hunker in the bedroom or the bathroom, something like that, but you're still going to need a way to keep warm. Yes, you've got your Mylar blankets, but what's going to be a little more efficient is to have one of these little emergency sleeping bags around. This is your ultimate backup here. If you have to bug out, if you've got to go back out to your car because your apartment gets trashed or caught on fire, something like that, emergency sleeping blanket's going to be a good thing. We're at about $2 a piece, something like that. I'd probably have a couple of them just in case. They're fairly durable, kind of loud to sleep in, but they do tend to stretch a little before they tear and break. So $2 there for that. So I'm sure there's plenty of other ideas for maintaining your apartment / shelter, but these are the cheapest, easiest ones you're going to have around, easy access to, versatile, etc. One other thing that isn't absolutely necessary because you've got some plastic coverage, but if you really want to get serious with covering up holes or having some durability, what you're going to want: contractor bags. You're going to want these big, heavy, 55-gallon, 3mm thick, heavy-duty contractor bags. Now, these things are expensive. It's 15 bags, I think, ran me $10. I've been using some of mine this fall, so I bought a new box yesterday. So, much more durable and tear-resistant. You can make a sleeping bag out of them. You can drop cloth, just all sorts of useful things, rain catches, etc. Would I necessarily have, in a small apartment, 15 of these in a giant roll laying around? Probably not. I'd probably have 4 or 5 of them, something like that, maybe, with one extra in the car or something. But the contractor bags are really the durable way to go. These things are probably going to tear pretty easy with a lot of wind or other extra debris flying around if you've got some storms or something. But I like the contractor bags ultimately, but cost savings, I'd stick with an extra box of trash bags, because this isn't actually an extra cost. You're already going to be using these. Having an extra bag around just means you're $5 or $7 into it more, and you have a backup. As soon as you get into your second box, you buy another box to replace it. Contractor bags, you're not going to use those as much, but they really are nice. So if you got the extra splurge on that, go for those. I welcome your other comments on maintaining the shelter. We're not talking about heating or air conditioning, airflow, those types of things. That's going to be a different video. Hope you found this first one useful, and do not forget those fire extinguishers, guys.